Hi, everybody. I'm going to come in real quick and talk about emergency funds. I have had this conversation so many times today and this week about what to do when you have an emergency. And I speak to people every day who are using credit to deal with emergencies or using credit to deal with debt. And so my take on it is you can never solve a debt or low income problem by getting into more debt. And so I was dealing with a person this morning who was asking, what's the financial independence route or the FI route to buying a phone? The phone is $1,000 and I want to buy this phone, but wouldn't I be better to put the money in savings and make more interest than I would be to pay the phone out for no interest? And I'm like, no. If you don't have $1,000, if you wouldn't spend $1,000 on a phone, then and you don't have it to spend, you don't need to be putting on credit because they're counting on you to miss one payment and then it's retroactive on the whole amount. Not only that, you are more likely, there's study after study, that you're going to spend more money when you're using credit. I don't use pay later, pay the same amount but pay later, or credit for an emergency fund. And even though, yes, many of you know I'm financially independent now, I lived paycheck to paycheck with my ex-husband until I was 40. I've always been frugal. I've always been good with money, but there were other situations going on there that I don't feel comfortable going into. But once I became a single mom, I did not use a credit card and I did not have any money. I had money. I made it work. I actually had more money living on less than $40,000 a year than I did living with a husband with $90,000 a year because I was managing the money well. It is, yes, you need to make enough money to survive, but it is how you manage that money that matters. So what I did was I had yard sales, I sold clothes, I did all kinds of side work. I accepted any job I could get to make any amount of money. I took a job working for $10 an hour for $600 a month. I worked, I think it was I can't remember, maybe I worked 20 hours a week at the Y doing administrative work. It was horrible pay. It was a horrible job. They worked me to death for $10 an hour. But I did that for like 2 years because I needed to build an emergency fund. And what I see, I help so many people. So many people come to me. I'm sorry, my husband's working in the background. And what they've done is they've gone out and gotten a HELOC, a loan on their house, or they've used a credit card for emergency fund. And they've done this for so long that now the interest rates and the payments are killing them and they cannot get ahead. For at least 7 years, I had no credit card. I just built up my emergency fund, and anytime I needed something, it had to wait. There was never a true emergency in that 7 years that my emergency fund couldn't cover. And in that 7 years, I had 1 year where I made $59,000. The rest of those years, I was making between $27,000 and $42,000. Generally, it was all over the place, but not that much money. And that included spousal support and child support. And I had 4 kids, 4 teenagers at home. So it can be done. I have done it. If it were me right now today and something tragic happened, I would do whatever I had to do. I would take whatever side work I had to do to A, build up that emergency fund, and B, start to get myself out of debt and build that emergency fund even bigger and then invest for my future. I would downsize to the smallest house that I could in order to get by. That was actually my plan before I got remarried, was I was going to sell my house, buy something cheaper and smaller, and then continue to work until I got the house paid off and had enough money to retire. I probably would have had to retire at 62 instead of 55 at that point, or 65, but at least I would have been on the path and I wouldn't have been only living on Social Security. Anyway, I'm rambling, but I have had so many conversations in the past few days of people paying bills on credit cards or borrowing money to solve their debt problems or pay their bills, and then something bad happens and they are in such a bind. Y'all, don't do it. Especially if you're low income, don't use credit cards, don't use debt to solve your problems. Go out, earn the money. We must learn delayed gratification. You don't need that thing right now if you can't afford it. If it is not a roof over your head or food in your belly or basic clothing, you don't need it unless you absolutely are going to starve to death, can't get to your job. You need a car to get to your job. You don't need a $40,000 car to get to your job. You need a $5,000 Honda Accord, right? And those can be found. I see them every day. I've purchased cars for my kids. All of my kids' cars I purchased from anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. And even at that, my husband and I have a CRV out there that back in 2019 we paid $7,500 for, and I'm trying to think, it's 14 years old. So I saw a CRV this morning for sale with low mileage for $2,500. They can be found. It's very hard to find them, but a lot of this takes patience, delayed gratification, thinking before you have a problem. Okay, I know emergencies happen to everybody in life. I know I'm going to need another vehicle. So you begin to plan and you begin to save ahead of time. And that is really the key right there. Okay, I'm on a little bit of rant because I've been really upset today about this because I've seen so many people hurting and it hits my heart heavy, and I want to help people, but the biggest detriment to getting ahead in life is debt. All right, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up and like. I'm not monetized, but it does help get the word out. I've chosen to not monetize. I don't make any money off of this. I just want to help people get out of debt and have financial freedom. Bye-bye.